Explain like I'm 5. Why do computers get so enragingly slow after just a few years? I watched the recent WWDC keynote where Apple launched a bunch of new products. One of them was the high-end Mac aimed at the professional sector. This was a computer designed to process hours of high-definition video footage for movies TV. As per usual, they boasted about how many processes you could run at the same time, and how they'd all be done instantaneously, compared to the previous model or the leading competitor. Meanwhile, my 10-year-old iMac takes 30 seconds to show the file menu when I click File. Or it takes 5 minutes to run a simple bash command in terminal. It's not taking 5 minutes to compile something or do anything particularly difficult. It takes 5 minutes to remember what bash is in the first place. I know why it couldn't process video footage without catching fire. But what I truly don't understand is why it takes so long to do the easiest, most mundane things. I'm not working with 50 apps open, or a browser laden down with 200 tabs. I don't have intensive image editing software running. There's no malware either. I'm just trying to use it to do everyday tasks. This has happened with every computer I've ever owned. Why? I can almost guarantee you have a failing HDD. Get a SSD and it will screen 10x what it did brand new. If you're installing current generation software, games, etc., those applications are more resource intensive than the ones you were installing when you first got the computer. The software updates, though they're often necessary to keep you safe, will also slow machines down. Just choosing to only install critical updates can result in snappier response times. Honestly, I think this sounds a bit like user error. I have multiple 612yo MacBooks that all run fine. Try reinstalling the OS. Operating systems get more demanding over time because new hardware is better. Also, software gets more demanding too. And there is not really that big of push to optimize it, as new hardware can handle it. Also, video files etc. are over time higher resolution, bigger bitrate etc. Also, you probably have HDD in it, which is slow compared to SSD. Often it's background programs running, at least on Windows. Often you install lots of software over time. Almost all of it wants to start background tasks on at computer startup, so it has a head start and opens fast when you click it. That would be fine if 1 or 2 APS are doing it. But you end up with like 10-20, and now idle RAM and CPU usage are high. Most of the time it's the OS bloat buildup over time. Look at some Linux distro. They manage to run pretty fast even on low-end old hardware. If you go and take a look at older versions of software that you use regularly, you'll notice that the early installer files are usually smaller. That's because over time, as the developer adds features and bug fixes, the code gets bigger and bigger. More code means more things the software is checking for, accounting for, etc. So if you continue to patch update software on your computer while keeping the hardware the same, it's going to struggle to handle that extra code. Check your temps. Thermal paste goes bad over time. If you're not an imbecile who trashed his PC with malware, bloatware etc., and your HDD is still fine, this is the reason. Replace the HDD with an SSD anyway though. This is all you. I have laptops from 2009 and 2011 that aren't as slow as how you describe your iMac. And I use them as dashboards and CCD test rigs. You've either screwed up your OS with a bunch of crap running in the background causing massive input latency or CPU usage, or there's some kind of hardware issue. IDK what these shell commands are that you're running. But my old machines work like a charm. Is it some script that reads the entire file system or grepping through terabytes of text? I've only ever seen this with PCs. I still have a 2011 iMac that works the same as it did brand new. Yes, a bit slow by today's standards, but faster than many new off-the-shelf PCs. I still have a 2015 MacBook Air. Again, works just as good as the day I got it. I now daily a Mac Mini M1. Still the same story. A lot of great answers on the software side. But on the hardware side, it's typically due to heat. Cooling components wear out over time. Thermal compound dries up. Fan bearings wear down and can't run as efficiently anymore. Dust accumulates and obstructs airflow. Most modern hardware has safeguards put in place to throttle performance once it hits a certain threshold. Poor cooling will cause a device to operate at levels far below what it's actually capable of. Imagine you're in a house nice, clean, and fresh. When you look for stuff, you can find it quickly. Now imagine you've lived in the house for a while. Things have piled up. And sure, you keep it clean on the face of things. But when you gotta search for stuff in cabinets and whatnot, it takes a little bit longer to sort through the stuff that accumulates. Now most people's computers would probably look like hoarder homes. And trying to move through one of those or look for something specific is a slow ordeal. You mentioned all the software things you are careful about. What physical cleaning? Disassembling it and making sure it isn't clogged with dust and cat hair and shit. You said it's 10 years old. How often do you replace the thermal paste? In that time it should be at least 2 or 3 times. Gotta stop clicking all the links. Grandma. At least close some of the 300 open windows. Edit sorry. Thought this was our ELI5. To put it simply, a computer from 10 years ago is built to run stuff from that era and nothing more. As years go by, even simple softwares become a hassle to the old systems due to the updates, changes, etc. made in the software. You can't really compare the first iPhone with the latest one. Besides the software slowing things down, disk drives slow down as well. All it takes is a flaky sector and the drive spends extra time reading the sector. And file fragmentation can be a cause as well. The hardware and software on your machine should work at the same speed you brought it. That's if you factory reset it after 5 years of use. However, in that 5 years, the many layers of software and patches and releases will have likely bloated the software as a stack. Plus, the new versions of the applications and operating system are likely to be more compute intensive. Therefore, on the same hardware, they will be slower. What does all this new computer software do? Well, so much more. Look how large the seeming simple web page from Google is. Assuming that your hardware didn't break down, which is usually the case. It's because the internet got bigger. 4K videos use 4 times more memory and processing power than 1080. Higher megapixel images on Instagram and even Amazon use more memory and processing. Sure, we thought computers ran fast 30 years ago. But that when we thought a 1 megapixel camera was a big deal.